We were Bucky unfortunately never saw Shirley again, in the same way. And that was October 26th. And it was a banner day in my life.
1946.
Yeah, 1946.
Now, Shirley, how did he impress you when you first saw him?
Well, I'll tell you something. Having had 6 brothers, I was not too fond of boys. I mean, especially 4 older brothers. I mean, the teasing and the, and like I say, I didn't know much about anything. And anyhow, when I met Jimmy, it was just a pleasure. I mean, he was almost 6 years older than I was. He'd been in the army, he'd been to university, and been to the army, and he was a man. I didn't have to go through all the junk that the girls have to go through with a lot of our, a lot of boyfriends and stuff. And anyway, I could talk to him. I was comfortable with him. And I've been comfortable with him ever since.
So anyway, that was October 26th, and we decided we wanted to get married in January. And Shirley's mother asked us to wait until March because she wanted to have a big wedding, and she wanted Shirley's next younger sister, Gloria, to be able to be in the wedding party. And Gloria was going to school at the University of Minnesota, and spring vacation was in March, so she scheduled the wedding on March 23rd.
Yeah.
And so that was it. The wedding was on March 23rd, and it was a gala event in the ballroom of the Paxton Hotel. And why the ballroom of the Paxton Hotel? Because at that time, that was the biggest ballroom available in Omaha. And as Shirley, I think, alluded to earlier, when Shirley's mother would meet people, she'd say, Shirley and Jimmy are getting married on March 23rd. Come on to the wedding. So it was wall-to-wall people.
Shirley, tell me about the wedding.
I'll tell you really about the wedding because it just flashed back in my mind. We all had belonged to Bethel for years. We had started out at Temple Israel when we were young kids, but then when Bethel was created, like when was it, in the 30s or 40s? We went there. So when I was going to the University of Omaha, I took a couple of classes from Rabbi Moshewitz. I think his name was Israel
Moshewitz.
Yeah, and he spoke a very broken English, and he was the Orthodox rabbi. Anyway, he taught. I can't remember what
some kind of a humanities course.
Yeah, 2 of them, and they were night classes, and teachers from all over the city were jammed his classes. God, I wish I could remember the names of them. But anyhow, I was so taken with that man and the charisma and the warmth of him that I told Mother. And I'm sorry to say Rabbi Kripke was there, but he had just come to Omaha. But I told Mother, I said, I want Rabbi Moshewitz to officiate at our wedding. Well, Rabbi Moshewitz there was a cantor there. I don't know if you remember.
Cantor.
Yeah. And Cantor was very small, and he wore this tall hat, whatever it is they wear. And anyway, and March was so hot that year. And of course I had on a satin gown. Rabbi Moshewitz officiated at our wedding. And you want me to talk about Cantor? Anyway, he had, Cantor was associated with him. And it was a very, very hot Sunday in March. And anyway, Cantor, when he would sing Mazel Tov, he just rolled his eyes back into his head. I mean, it was just a wonderful moment.
But it was funny.
Yeah. But he was just darling. And I forget what I said.
Well, you were wearing
Oh, a satin gown.
and it was hot
Oh,
and you
yeah.
were sweating.
Oh, terrible. But it was such a joy. It really was a joyous occasion. And Rabbi Moshe was just so elegant in what he had to say. And apparently whatever he said meant something to the two of us, because we'll be married 60 years next month. But
Who are some of your attendants?
all my sisters. All my sisters.
And how about you, Jim?
Well, my best man was Joe Kirschenbaum, who now he owned Wolf Brothers in Omaha. Now he lives in Palm Springs or Palm Desert or wherever it is out there. And there were other attendants. Shirley's whole family was there, and so was mine. My nieces.
We had ring bearers.
Yeah, my nieces, and they were ring bearers and candle lighters, and it was a gala affair. And I remember that the Judge Palmer,
he was a district judge.
after a few drinks, he was playing the piano and singing, and it was a gala affair. And then Shirley and I slipped away, and we went to the Chieftain Hotel in Council Bluffs, and that's where we spent our wedding night.
And when we went into the coffee shop the next morning, people would say, "Are you newlyweds?" And then we went to Excelsior Springs. It was our first stop. We went down to Gulfport, Mississippi, and
Well, New Orleans
New
first.
Orleans. Yeah.
How did you travel in those days?
Oh.
Drove. There was no other way except a bus
So anyway,
or a train.
Jimmy made a bargain with me, or I made a bargain with Jimmy. There would be no night driving. Well, of course we did. He was anxious to get down to New Orleans, so we had to go through the Ozarks, and those roads there, are very, very curvy. So here we are, driving in the middle of nowhere on a curvy road.
In the middle of the night.
Yeah. And what happens? We get a flat tire. Well,
Our marriage survived.
Yes. But anyway, it was a great time.
What kind of work were you doing at that time, Jim?
Well, when I got out of the Army in 1946, I was in the service for 52 months. And when I got out, I did various things. I sold plumbing on the road. I called on plumbers and hardware stores in small towns, and stayed in hotel rooms with a rope coiled up in the corner, tied to a radiator, which was the fire escape. And I did that for a short time, and then eventually I went into the war surplus business. And I did that I had a company, I named it National Jobbing Company. I did that for a couple of years, and that's when we got married. I was still in that business. And then I decided I really didn't.
And the business was out on North 24th.
I had
next to Schukert's Market.
Yeah.
So he had rats in the walls.
It was an experience, and I did most of my business. I initiated a mail order business, and that's how I did 95% of my business was mail order. And I developed quite a mail order business, and then I had known Millard Rosenberg for many years, and we were good friends. And he was working for Hinky Dinky at that time, and he used to stop by on Saturday, and we'd chew the fat. And somehow we decided that we wanted to start an advertising agency. Neither of us had ever worked for an advertising agency and really didn't know much about it, but we decided that's what we wanted to do. So I liquidated my business and Millard gave notice at Hinky Dinky, and we each went to the bank with $300 and started our business, Universal Advertising Agency. And then we didn't hire anybody. We were the sole proprietors and operators. And I bought a war surplus typewriter for $25. And I bought 2 desks, one for $5 and I think one for $7. I bought a bunch of wooden filing cabinets for $2 a piece, and that was our equipment. And we bought some paper, and we were in business. And well, this is a long story. I don't know if you want to get into this whole thing. So anyway, I had been buying a lot of my war surplus merchandise from Superior Sales Company, which was owned by Louis Katz and Sam Goodman. And Louis Katz and I had developed a very close friendship. And of course I was friendly with Sam Goodman too, but Louis and I were really, really close buddies. And when I liquidated my business, I had some expertise in the mail order business by then, and they had opened Rank's store on 16th Street, 16th and I think about Howard. It was a war surplus retail store, and they wanted to get into the mail order business. So that was our first client. We didn't go in the agency business to get that client, but after we decided we wanted to have an agency, then Louis asked us to do his mail order advertising, and we did catalogs and flyers and so on. And also I sold him my mailing list from my business. So that was our first client. And then interestingly, one of our other early clients was Borsheim's on 16th and Howard, 16th and Harney. Simon Gorelick and
Mrs. B's brother.
Yeah, Friedman.
Ike. Isidore.
Yeah, Isidore Friedman, I guess. Ike Friedman's father. And that was one of our first clients. And gradually we developed a rather impressive list of clients, and we were successful. And Millard and I were together for 20 years and enjoyed a very fine relationship. And then after 20 years, we thought it would be better if we would separate. And so we separated. We divided up our business right down the middle. I took half of the clients, and Millard took half. And I had J. Lipsey and Associates, and Millard had Millard Rosenberg Advertising, and we both operated our own businesses. And among our clients, we had a lot of the Jewish businesses in Omaha. We had Hinky Dinky. I wouldn't call Brandeis a Jewish business exactly, but the Brandeis were Jewish, and that was one of our good clients. Rosa Novak was a long-time client. And our clients were not exclusively Jewish. We didn't discriminate, but
Beardmore.
yeah, we had several car dealers. We had in addition to Rosa Novak, we had Beardmore Chevrolet, and we had Misley Chevrolet in Lincoln, and of course we had Novak Cadillac, and then we had Paxton and Veerling Steel Company. We had we had a long list of clients. unfortunately. And so altogether I was in the agency business for 30 years, and then our oldest son, Bob, had been working with me for about 5 years, and Shirley and I decided to move out to Tucson. So Bob took over the agency, and I commuted from Tucson for a couple of years, spent about a week out of every month in Omaha, and then I confined my activity mostly to the telephone, although I visited Omaha frequently. And eventually I separated entirely from the agency, and Bob ran it for 20 years, and then he moved out to Tucson.
Something you left out, Jim, that
Yes.
is really important is he was recalled during Korea.
And yes, I forgot about that.
I want to go back, and I missed that. I want to go back and get your military career. Then we'll get to the Korea.
Oh, okay. Well, my military career was long, but
He was
somewhat
lucky.
uneventful, considering what a lot of others went through. As I said, I quit school 2 weeks after Pearl Harbor, and Irv Simon, who was a very good friend of mine, and a cousin of Shirley's, he kept urging me to join him and enlist in the Army Air Corps at that time. Well, I decided 2 weeks after Pearl Harbor, he and I went down to the post office and enlisted. And then we went to Fort Leavenworth, and then to Biggsfield, to Shepherd Field in Texas, in Wichita Falls, Texas, for basic training. And then both of us went to aircraft armorers school in Denver. And when we graduated from aircraft armorers school, I was picked out as an instructor, and Irv was picked out to go to India. That's the breaks of the game in the Army.
Well, that was terrible for him.
Yeah, it was terrible for him and for Miriam.
He was on the Burma Pass, wasn't he, working out?
No.
I thought he was.
Different. Anyway, so I was, the aircraft armor school was in Denver, and I was there for almost 2 years, and I was itching to go overseas. I wanted to go overseas and fight. I wanted to be originally, when I enlisted, I wanted to be a pilot, but unfortunately, I'm colorblind, and you can't be colorblind and be a pilot, I discovered. I passed all the other tests, but I was disqualified because I was colorblind. So I kept taking the color test, and I couldn't pass it. And I had an uncle in Omaha who was an eye, ear, nose, and throat doctor,